Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name is GBay99. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. Today, I'm back with another video where today we have a pretty interesting topic to talk about. Today, I want to talk to you guys about surrendering games in League of Legends. So recently, Riot came out with this big, exciting post not too long ago where they mentioned how they might start letting teams surrender at 15 minutes if all 5 people agree to a surrender vote. And honestly, I think this is a pretty good idea. If you're in a situation where maybe a teammate has to leave, or maybe the game is in such a terrible position you don't think you can come back, or you don't want to try and make a comeback happen, if every single person on a team agrees to surrender, you should have the right to do so. Implementing this will probably end with some teams surrendering games that they otherwise could have come back and won. Some bronze players that just want to give up in the early game, even though they could very easily make a comeback happen. But if every single person agrees to a surrender vote and they don't want to try and make a comeback happen anyway, they shouldn't be forced to do so, and they should be able to take the loss and move on to the next game if they want. I think this is a really good decision and hopefully an update that goes through. However, there is a bit of a problem where, at least in North America, nobody currently surrenders games even at the 20-minute mark when you only need 4 votes, so I can't see how any of this would be any use to anyone, really, at least in North America. I'm not too sure if Europe West or Europe Nordic East have similar problems, but I know that Korea and China don't. Maybe it's just a North American cultural thing of never wanting to surrender, never wanting to give up, and fighting to the very end with your dying breath to try and put all the juice that you possibly can into hopefully making a win and comeback happen, which all sounds very heroic, but it is so annoying in League of Legends. Let's be real here. There are plenty of games a player will play in League of Legends where their team just doesn't surrender. It's going to be a lost game. Everyone knows it's a lost game, but their team chooses not to surrender out of stubbornness, and then the enemy team realizes this and just starts running up their KDA, and you have to wait 15 or 20 minutes before you get into your next match. Well, today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about whether or not you should surrender games, how to look for a game that you should maybe surrender, and hopefully redeem myself, because maybe all my videos in the past have contributed to this mentality a little bit. I'm trying to redeem myself and maybe take a little bit of the blame. So let's go ahead and get into a couple of games that I want to take a look at today. Starting off with game number 1, an Illaoi game that I played just a couple days ago. This was a game that I was playing when I was warming up to practice for our Completing League Illaoi episode, and this was the worst game that I played that entire day. The game started off with my lane going absolutely horribly, where I got early ganks from Graves. I teleported back to lane after giving up an early kill just to have Graves right there, ready to gank again. I was constantly losing my lane, constantly getting ganked, and not able to escape from any of it, so I ended up with a score that was just disgusting. I think I was 1-10 by the end of the game. Not only did I have a rough laning phase, but every single person on my team had a rough laning phase as well. Our jungle got out-jungled, and every other lane lost their lane. I don't think we had a single person positive on the team by the end of the game, and just nothing went right for anybody. So this game is a perfect example of a game that you probably want to surrender. Generally, you want to surrender games when you're in a situation where even if you start playing 2 or 3 times as well as you've been playing the entire match, you will still end up losing the game. For instance, this game, the enemy team was always 2 or 3 times as many kills as our team had. They were constantly multiplying our kills, our towers, and the gold lead. It just kept on extending all the way throughout the match to a point where they were able to take every inhibitor, every tower, every baron or objective that they wanted, and we could not put up a fight. This is a game that we could not come back and win, even if we started playing 10 times better than we were, which wasn't much. I mean, we were playing really badly that put us in this terrible spot in the first place. If you look at a game and you can't possibly envision a scenario where you win, if you can't think of a game plan where you say, okay, we'll just rally around this guy and he'll carry us and we'll get picks and we won't get caught out. If you can't get a game plan like that going, then that's typically a game that you should surrender. This was a game that we should have surrendered. I was 1-10. It was terrible, but of course, this is North America, and nobody wanted to surrender outside of me and maybe one other player. Let's take a look at another match. This is a ranked game that I played later the next day on stream that was pretty unusual in that the early game was very back and forth. It started off with me doing pretty well in my laning phase, going 2-0 up against a Kled top lane, but our mid laner, our Ryze, ended up feeding incredibly hard. He ended the game 2-11 or something, and our support also had a very difficult game in the early laning phase where the enemy team racked up so many kills, I eventually just gave up and said, okay, I guess that's game. However, this was a game that I should not have given up in because I won my lane at the start. I probably would have gotten a much better KDA by the end of it. I end 5-8-1 or something. I probably could have turned that into a real KDA, and we had a jungle and an AD carry who both did very well. The Jhin went even in laning phase despite his support playing badly, and our Nidalee ended 6-1-7 or something ridiculously good. This was a game that I fully regret giving up on because we would have had clear opportunities to carry our Ryze and support if we just played better and didn't spend so much time wanting to give up and trying to surrender. These are the kinds of games where I encourage you guys, don't give up just because of a poor early game. If you take a look at the gold differential or the kill differential in this game, we were never down by more than 5 or 6 kills or 5 or 6k gold, so we had a clear opportunity to come back and win this game if I didn't just start coasting and accepting that, oh, this is an inevitable loss, we have a 2-11 mid lane. We could have definitely come back and won this if I played better and worked to carry with my AD carry and jungler. It's really easy to look at that 2-11 score and say, oh, we have a feeder, we can't win, but as long as there is a path to victory where you can still carry and win the game, even if the enemy team doesn't make too many mistakes, you should still keep on trying. Don't surrender these matches, and particularly don't surrender them in the early game when you see someone playing poorly just because they were getting camped or whatever, and say, oh, let's give up at 7 minutes because we are down a couple kills. This final game might be the best example of that, though, and one where I was finally able to fix my mentality. So this was a match where everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong in the early game. Our Brand gave first blood, getting caught out in the jungle. He started intentionally feeding his lane at one point. He started the game off 0-5-0 in total by the 20-minute mark or something. And we started off 0-7. 0-7, 0 kills to 7, worse than Brazil versus Germany. It doesn't really get worse than that, typically speaking, in your average League of Legends game. However, this was a game that we finally had our mind in the right place. And even though our team wanted to surrender, we talked them down. We talked them down about how the enemy team actually wasn't that much better than we were. I mean, they were just kind of inflating their KDAs off of the Brand, who was not worth too much by the time he was 0-5-0. And we played pretty well. We started off winning our lane, and there were certainly moments that, you know, you could argue maybe we were playing really, really well, or maybe our opponents were, you know, our opponents probably could have been playing better at some moments. But we kept a level head. We didn't let poor early laning phases screw us over. We were able to get a phenomenal KDA ourselves and take it into the mid game where the game was completely even and we were free to carry against these guys and ultimately end up carrying our team to win the game. Our teammates did help out quite a bit. I mean, that's something that I gotta give props to my teammates here. We ended with a 10-1-2 score, but yeah, I could not have won this game on my own. I still needed my teammates to help. It's not about whether or not the teammates carried me or I carried my teammates or anything. It's about trying to keep everyone focused on the game and not letting early mistakes or early intentional feeding get in the way of a potential victory, of a potential plus 20 LP or whatever it is that you're getting. This was a ranked game, and so tensions are high. People are often going to be very easy to give up and quit just out of frustration of seeing how poorly things can go. But if you stay focused on the game and don't surrender, don't just try and give up and surrender until the 20-minute mark when you're 100% sure you can't come back and win. That's when you should really, I mean, that's the key to knowing when you should give up in a game and when you should keep on playing it out. I do think that people should surrender some games. You should not blindly never surrender any game that you have, but you should be thinking, just try and be smart about it. Think about, is it a possibility that we can come back and beat our opponents? Are we actually as good or better than our opponents, but just had some problems in the early game, maybe some sloppy bad technical play? Can we come back and win this? If the answer is yes, that's when you never want to give up, even when your inting bot lane wants you to. And if if you're beat by better players, then maybe that's when it's time to pull the surrender vote out. Anyway, I hope you guys all enjoyed watching today's video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment. Feel free to tell me if you agree or disagree with my assessment of when you should and shouldn't surrender games in the comments down below. Generally speaking, I do think people need to surrender more games. There are certainly plenty of games where you are beat, but a lot of people just seem too proud to admit it or something. And those can certainly be pretty frustrating, but they have the right idea. You don't want to surrender every game that you're behind. Anyway, though, I hope you guys all enjoyed watching today's video. I will, of course, see you all tomorrow, but until then, thank you very much for watching. Good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.